I am so excited. It is finally time to put these signatures into a cover and to make a proper journal out of it. Welcome, it's Barbara. Let's do this. So even though I don't have a lot of pages for these two signatures, I think I only have 2 pages per signature, but they are still very bulky. For this one, I think I might have 4. So I might still switch things around, but this is what we have. And as you can see, it is super bulky already. So this is as far as I want to go. And now we have to think about what kind of cover do we want to make. I thought about a few different options, and I thought even about making a fabric covered one this time, because I've recently purchased some beautiful fabric. But then I found the perfect book in my stash, which I think I'm going to use instead, and I'm going to alter it a little bit. So this is the book cover that I have. It's German, and I love the image here. It is vintage, of course, and it kind of reminds me, I don't know why, it reminds me of the end of summer. I think this is perfect because in our signatures, we are transitioning from summer to fall. So that's why I think it works well, and also the size works really well. So the spine size doesn't concern me because obviously that's not gonna work. But what needs to work is the cover itself, and this is my largest of the 3 signatures, and I think it fits in here perfectly. So this is what I want to go with. So let's put these aside for now. And the first thing we need to do, and I know this is the hardest part, and if you don't want to watch, then don't watch this. We need to gut this beautiful book. It is from 1936, and I do think I want to preserve this. It says, "For my lovely daughter for her birthday, 1936, Mommy." So how sweet is that? So we are definitely going to keep this, and maybe we will use this as either a back or front inside cover. So the rest is text. And you can only do this with books that have a gap here between the spine and the signatures. So if these are glued in, this will not work. So if you're looking for books to do this with, please make sure that they are sewn in and not glued to the spine. So I'm just going to take my Stanley knife or craft knife and very carefully go down the spine here to separate the spine from the rest of the book. So very gently, because what has happened to me already is that I have sliced into the spine, and we don't want that. So please do this very gently. Okay, so there's one side off. And now we do the same thing with the other side, and this one is easier because it's just hanging on this one piece of paper, and we can just slice down that. There, so we have our cover, and we have the inside of the book, and we're definitely going to be keeping these pages to make ephemera with and do all sorts of stuff. So I will put this to the side. Next, I need to remove this spine, and I'm just going to do that with my large scissors. I just think that is easier. Just going to cut along here. This is quite easy to cut. Okay, so now we have our front and our back cover plates, and now of course we still need the spine. So I have this piece of packaging from some papers, and it's kind of like, I want to say it's kind of like chipboard. I don't know how thick exactly it is, but it is quite thick, maybe 1/16 of an inch. And it is very sturdy, so this should be fine as a spine. So I just need to now cut a piece that is going to be the same height as my book cover. So I will mark that. And I know I want to make it 2.5 inches wide. And how do I know that? So I took my signatures and I measured how high they would be by pressing them down just a little bit, because I know the cover is going to squish them a little bit, but I don't want them to be too squished and I don't want it to be a gator mouth. So 2.5 inches seems to be the perfect width for this spine, which is about 6.5 centimeters. I don't think my paper trimmer can handle this weight of cardstock, so I'm going to attempt to do this with my rotary blade. So I just put my cutting mat underneath so that I don't harm my mat. And if you don't have one of these, you can definitely just do this with a Stanley or craft knife. And I'm using one of these, which is just a little bit easier to hold than a regular ruler. You can also use a ruler, preferably a metal one if you do this. But this is, I don't know what these are called. You use these for sewing. So I will try to do this as straight as I can. When we cover the spine, we're going to be doing this with a book cloth. So I have this beautiful blue, it's like steel blue book cloth, and I will link an Amazon link for you with book cloth, but it doesn't have to be book cloth. It could also just be fabric, but book cloth is maybe a little easier to work with. So I need to decide now before putting this on, do I want the book cloth to be over the inside covers, or do I want to glue it down first and then have the inside, whatever I'm gonna put on here, over the book cloth? So I think I'm going to have the book cloth over the covers, meaning I need to do those first. So I need to find something that I want to use. Now, I said I want to use this, and I do, but maybe I won't use the full thing on the cover. I'm not sure yet. So one option is definitely to just put it like this. It would be big enough, and that would be beautiful. The other option is, of course, to put it on the back side and to put something else here. The other option is to maybe then just cut this off and kind of make like a journaling card or something out of this, and then maybe put it in a pocket on the front or the back. So decisions. So let's maybe first start with the paper that I chose for this. So I have this Bohemian paper pad from Dove Craft. If I find it, I will link it for you below. So maybe here I can give you an overview of what the papers inside look like. And I was thinking of this one because I think that color matches beautifully with our cover. So let's take our cover, and here you can see some of the papers, and some of them are like shiny and some of them are not, and I of course prefer the matte ones. So this is the one I was thinking about. I think these go together so well. So let me take this out. So I'm going to just measure this to cover all the white page that I have here. And it doesn't need to go all the way to the edge here, because we're going to have our book cloth covering that anyway. So I've cut both out exactly the same size, of course. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use these, and then I'm going to tear around this, and either I will glue this on maybe the back cover or the front, I'm not sure yet. So first what I'm going to do before I glue these in is I'm going to make them look a bit more vintage. So I'm using my Vintage Photo Distress Oxide to go around these edges. And once I've done that, I'm also taking the Vintage Photo, but this time with my softer blending brush, to just go over the whole paper to just make it look even more vintage, just to work better with the book cover, because I think it's kind of strange if the book cover is vintage and then you open it and you have this brand new feeling. I don't know. I like it better if it all looks vintage. Now, if you don't have a blending brush, you can of course use this as well. Just be very gentle so you don't get like smudges. Or you could also coffee or tea dye your paper. But this is now a very quick way to do this. And you already now see the difference between this one and this one. And now it's time to glue these down. And I'm going to be using my 3-in-1 glue. You could also use Mod Podge or any glue that will not make your paper warp too much. The 3-in-1 glue and the Fabri-Tacs don't make your paper warp, so that is a good option for large surfaces. This would probably even work with a glue stick, to be honest. Making sure it's straightish. And then I'll go over it with my ruler to spread out the glue more or less evenly. And also to make sure that it seeps through to the edges. And if some of the glue seeps out, like here, I don't know if you can see it, just take a baby wipe and wipe that off. But be careful, because you will also wipe off your distressing. So both of our book covers are ready, and now we need to do the spine. So what I want to make sure is that when I turn this around, I want to see how much my book cloth is going to cover my front cover, so that I can determine how wide it should be. Now as you can see, I'm laying these down here with a gap between the spine and the book cover, because we need it to have a hinge to fold. So I'm leaving about maybe 1/4 of an inch in between. I just want to see how that's gonna work. So that's gonna work actually very nicely with the width that I have here already. So it's maybe what is this? This is like 1/2 inch. It overlaps the front and the back cover, meaning that it won't, maybe we turn it around, it won't overlap our title. By the way, this title means, so it's German and it says elternlos, which means literally translated parentless, so without parents. So we can still read this. It will unfortunately cover the M of the first name of the author, but that cannot be helped. If I'm also planning to then cover it up maybe with a piece of lace or something, which I might do, then I have to consider that as well. So then maybe I'd want to move it a little bit further in, but I do want enough so that it will really stick down well. So I'm just gonna really center this, and that should be fine. So I'm gonna take my book cloth, and of course I also want to see about the length. I like to cover the whole spine, front and back, so that it is nice on both sides. And it does of course need to overlap a bit because we need to glue it together. Yeah, actually I can just leave it. It's overlapping this much, which is fine. I can glue that. So I'm centering it on the book cloth, and then I will fold this over, and I will pull this down, and then we'll glue this all down, of course, with the covers. So first step will be to glue the spine onto my book cloth. And I will again use my 3-in-1 glue. So I'm going to center it and put it right on top of that crease that I made before. And then I'm going to take my my 2 book covers and glue them down next to my spine. So I will put my glue this time on the book cloth, leaving about 1/4 of an inch gap. And do the same thing on the other side. Now I want to carefully just turn this whole thing around. Because I want to burnish this down and take care of any glue that is seeping out. And I also want to kind of make this indent here that we have the gap where the hinge is. I just want to, actually this might be better with my bone folder, just go along that crease because we do want that crease. And this will hopefully dry without leaving any spots. So next I'm going to fold this up and glue that down. So I'm putting glue all over the book cloth. And again, I want to make sure I go into those creases. And then we glue down the top over like this. First want to burnish the spine, and then go in the crease, and then burnish the outside. And then it's very important to let this dry before you do anything else. So I'm just gonna stand this up like this and wait for that to dry. It's about an hour later and everything is dry now. And I can see that on the inside, I didn't match this up very nicely and I do have some glue seeping out here, but not to worry. We're going to cover those up. So for this, I'm going to use some self-adhesive lace trim like this. This is off-white, and we're just going to put that over the two edges and everything will be fine. So I just need to cut this to fit the height of my book. So all is well, all is covered, nobody would know. And on the front cover or the back cover, it's not actually necessary, but we can still think about whether we want to add some lace or not. We would of course have to do it in the way not to cover the title. Actually, it would be cute. I'm gonna do this. I think this just gives it a nice finishing touch. Everything looks very neat. Now it's time to worry about binding in the signatures. So I'm going to use an easy 3-hole pamphlet stitch to sew these into my signature. And to do that, I'm going to first make a template for myself, which is going to have the same width as my spine. And in this case, it's a little bit shorter, but that's okay. I can center that. So I'm just going to trim this down first. I looked at my signatures again. So I had 3 first, and I had 2 that had 2 pages, and I had 1 that had 4 pages. So now I just divided this first one up into 2 parts, so they each have 2 pages now. So I have 4 signatures with 2 pages each, and I think that's just a better distribution for this journal. So knowing that I have 4, I need to now divide this template up equally. So I just need to take the width of the spine and divide it by 5 in my case, because I have 4 signatures. So in my case, it comes to 1.3 centimeters that I have to mark here. So I'll do that 4 times. And I do the same thing on the bottom, and that way I can connect the lines and have 4 straight and evenly spaced lines across my spine. Like this. And next I need to figure out where my holes need to go. So the first one needs to go in the middle, so I will just make a dent here. That way I know where the middle is, just to make it easy. And then just connect to 2. So that's my middle, and then I need to decide how far out do I want my other 2 holes to be. Maybe let's do it 2.5 inches from the middle on both sides. There is no right or wrong here. I will again connect these 2. So at all these cross points now, this is where I need to punch my holes. Like this. So now I'm going to take my awl or whatever pokey tool you might have and just punch the holes at those intersections. And then the next step is to put this template onto our book. And one thing that's also important is to mark where your top is. That will be important for when we put the holes in the signatures. So this is my top, and I'm going to center this on my spine. Make sure that it's straight. And now I can take my pencil, or you could take a pen, and then just mark where those holes are so that I know this is where I need to put my holes through the spine. And now I just use my awl and poke through those holes. Be sure not to poke your fingers, please. You could put this into crease of a phone book or something like that. Like if you open the phone book flat, you could put this in there. Whoops. But I don't have one, and I think this works just fine. Okay, so now we have all our holes and our spine is ready to go. But there's one more thing I want to do before I start sewing in the signatures, and that is I want to put a hole in the middle of the spine on the top here, because I think I will want to add some charms on the top. So that's definitely easier to do before I have my signatures here. So I just need to mark again where my middle is. And then I'm going to take my crocodile and use the big hole and punch a hole right through there. These things are so great, they will punch through basically everything. And then I'm going to put an eyelet through this. And I want this to be a golden eyelet because I think that fits nicely with her golden dress. So that is all set. Now we need to prepare our signatures. We're going to do this by using our template. So I'm going to fold my template on one of these lines. Doesn't matter which one. So now this is going to help me to figure out where the holes need to be. I'm just gonna go grab some clamps. So I will make sure that these are lined up how I want them to be. And then I will clamp them together on both sides. Make sure they're nice and snug there in the middle. And then I can put my template right in the middle, center that, and then take my awl and punch right through the holes. And I will repeat that for all the signatures that I have. One of my signature turns out to be a bit more tricky because we have this pop-up card right in the middle, so I cannot just put my template on top and it won't also fit in between there. So in this case, I'm going to measure where the holes are and then just put them in like that. Once we have all of those set up, it is time to start sewing them in, and I chose this beautiful light turquoise for my thread to sew these in. This is an embroidery thread, and I think it goes really well with the color here on the cover. So this is what we're going to see here on the spine. I'm going to measure 3 times the height of my book for each signature. 1, 2, 3. So I'll do this 4 times. Next, I took a fairly large needle and threaded my thread through it, and you don't need a knot or anything on the end, you just leave it loose. And I usually start from the first signature in the front and then move my way back, but I know there are people who like to do it the other way around, or maybe even start in the middle. And I'm going to be tying my knots in the middle, which is why I'm going to start from the inside out from the middle. So I take my needle, put it through the middle hole of my signature, and then put it through the first middle hole in my spine and thread that through to the front, leaving a bit like this to stay in the middle, because that's what we'll use to knot it in the end. So make sure it doesn't pull all the way through. Then I tend to first go to the top, but it doesn't really matter. You can then also just go to the bottom. I'm going to go from the top in to the spine and through my signature. It's fairly easy when you only have 2 pages per signature. Then I'm going to go all the way down and go back out through the bottom hole. Making sure to always pull it tightly. And then I'm going to go back in my middle hole. Ideally, I don't split the thread, and ideally I also come out on the other side of that thread. Now you can let go of the needle. And now it's really important to tie this tightly so that your signature doesn't wobble too much. So make sure that is nice and tight. Maybe check on the cover as well, that it's nice and tight here. And then you tie a knot around your thread in the middle there. I just do a double knot. What people sometimes like doing is to leave these hanging long and then to put charms on them to dangle out on the bottom, or even just to have in your journal shorter. But I kind of think that's too much in my case, so I'm just going to make a double knot and then cut it off short. Very, very simple binding. I know it's hard to see, the thread is kind of light. So that's our first signature in. I can take off these clips. So I will continue the same way with all of these signatures. Maybe I'll do this one with you because of the complication of the pop-up thing. So I've threaded my second thread, and I'm just going to try to do this the same way. I'm going to go in through my middle hole right there, and then go through the second hole in my spine, and then go in from the top. And to go now to my bottom hole, I'll just put the needle through like this, because we didn't glue down the whole thing, so we do have a gap here and here for it to be able to fold like this. So that really helps us now. And then I'll go back out through the bottom hole, just like I always do. Okay, this is a bit more fiddly, but it works, I hope. Make sure it's nice and tight. And we go back in through the middle again. Okay, and now we just tie the knot. Just make sure everything is nice and snug. It's actually just like tying in any other signature. It's just a bit more fiddly because these things are always in the way. It works just like the other ones. I will give you a flip through at the end when I have them all in. So I will just do the same with these last two signatures. So all of my signatures are sewn in nice and snugly, and you see how big this is. Amazing. This is definitely one of my bigger journals. But all the pages fit in beautifully. It is really the perfect size. And I always like to put a closure on my books so that they don't just open and then the pages could get damaged easily. So I'm again just going to put a hole in this cover and in this cover and then tie them closed with a ribbon. I'm going to again use the bigger hole of my crocodile. So after I punch in the front hole, which is here, I'm going to mark where the other one needs to go so that they are in approximately the same height of the book. Just like that. And then I'll make my second hole. And now I'll put my eyelets in from the outside in. I have one of these linked in the description box in case you don't have one of these and you need one. They really go through basically everything. I just really love this tool, and I wouldn't know how to do this without this tool. This is something you will have your whole life, and it will really make your life easier. There's the hole in front and in back, and now we just need a ribbon to tie it shut. And I have picked out this one, which I think goes really well with the colors that we have here on the cover. I'm just going to thread this through my hole. Maybe I will cut this first at more of an angle to make it easier. Like this. And I want the shiny side up. And usually I make a knot here just so that it stays put. And I will of course leave some length to be able to make a bow. So I will cut this now, and I will cut the same length again. So I just make sure it's in the middle, and then I'll make a knot. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. And now we can make a nice bow to close it. Like that. So two more things I still want to do. one was, I wanted to include this somehow. I'm going to tear around this first. So I tore this with my tearing ruler, and I also inked around the edges. And I think what I'm going to do is I have some of this paper left over that I used for the inside cover. And to strengthen it, I'm going to glue that on it. And I'm going to make this into a pocket here in the front. I aged up the edges the same way that we did with the inside covers. And now I'm just going to glue this in the middle. Like that. Now I realized what I could have done, what I would have liked better, is to put this a little farther down and to do a half circle here so that you can actually see it's a pocket. And this is actually the perfect place to put my summer prompts list, which I used for part of these pages. I of course also have my autumn prompt list. Both of these prompt lists will be linked for you below, because maybe you are in the part of the world, like in Australia, for example, where you are now in spring and will be coming into summer eventually. So then maybe you can use this summer prompt list. But I still have this autumn prompt list that I will take to my next journal because I'm not done with that. So the final thing I still want to do is I want to add a charm here. What I want to include on my spine are just some dangling charms and beads. If you would rather have a tassel, like made from ribbons and twine and things like that, then I will link for you a video from Tina from Shabby Dabby Doodah that she posted recently on how to make these beautiful tassels for your journals. But I'm not gonna do that. So I'm gonna use my charms. So this is a collection of various things. As you can see here, there are beads and other kinds of charms. A lot of these are from broken pieces of jewelry, things from my own jewelry that have broken. Some of them are from jewelry I have gotten from Goodwill and then taken apart. Some of the beads I have kind of inherited from a former art teacher from the school I used to work in. These shells I actually bought. Then I have some metal charms here. I might use a few of these. You can find these on Amazon or AliExpress, or maybe even in your local craft store. And I have some very, very special beads. These are handmade beads from my friend in the UK, Elaine. And I will definitely be adding maybe 2 or 3 of these because these are super special, and I think some of these blue ones especially will go really well with the journal today. And I'm going to use a very, very simple way to attach these to this spine. And this is a method I have learned from Johanna Cloth. I'm assuming most of you know Johanna's channel if you're into junk journaling and making junk journals. So what I did was I cut 5 of these embroidery threads, the same that I used for binding the journal, so that they coordinate. So I've doubled them up here so that when I fold them in half, they are a little longer than the and the spine of my book, and I will probably be cutting them down later, but just for now I want to leave them at this length. So I have 5 of these, and I'm not sure 5 is the best number, but I'm just gonna go with this because I've never actually tried it just with one hole. The only times I've done this before is with other journals where I did a no-sew binding where I had a few holes on top, and then I did this, I put the charms in on all the binding. Actually, let me just show you. So this is one of my older journals, and you see I have 4 holes on top here and on the bottom because I bound the pages with a no-sew binding, so they're just kind of loosely in there. And when I put in the binding, I put it in so that they would all end up here, and I knotted it, and then I had the ends left over then to just tie my charms on it. And I really love how this looks, and I love the sound of this. So this is what I'm kind of trying to replicate for this new journal. So maybe you can see when it actually stands upright. So you have all these charms dangling down at different lengths. I really love this style. So that's what I'm trying to do here, but just with one hole. So we'll see how that goes. So I folded this in half. So we're going to open this beautiful bow. And we're gonna go here into the middle there. So our hole is there. So I'll try to put my loops through the hole. And then we thread this through. Then we can just pull this. So now we have this knot. Oh, it's not a knot, but this thing here where it's bound on the outside. So I will just close this up again to give it more stability. So now I have 10 strands to work with to attach some charms to. And this is the best. So I'm gonna start off with one of Elaine's beautifully handmade beads. Can you believe this? This is just amazing. Wow. Elaine, I'm so lucky to be able to have these on my spine. I'm really, really very touched. Now all I'm gonna do is to thread this through the hole. You can do this with anything that you can either wrap it around or where there's a hole to thread it through. And now once it's through, you just make a knot on whatever height you want this to be. Like that. So that's our first charm. Then there is this one. Some of these I might have to use my needle to thread it through. This one, for example. So this one, for example, I want a little further down. So I'll just move it to the position I want it to be and then make my knot. I'll make a double knot on this one to make sure it stays secure. Yeah, and then we just continue until we have as many beads on here as we like. For something like this where you have a hole going through it, there's two things you can do. So either now you tie a knot that's big enough so that this cannot slide down, or you could also tie the two together like this. That's another option. I'll try it with a knot, see how that goes. Okay, that should work. The knot is big enough so this won't go down. This I love so much. I picked this up at the flea market. Isn't it absolutely gorgeous? Really, really love this. I mean, I did pay, I don't know, maybe €5 or so for this, so not cheap, but I absolutely adore this. So I think I want to add this here as well. So in the end, this is what my tassel looks like. I've cut off all the ends because I don't think I will be adding any more charms at a later point. Otherwise, you can just leave them long so you can add more charms with time. So I have a really nice mixture here of beads and other charms, Elaine's beautiful beads. I also added 2 of these shells because she's at the beach. So yeah, I really like how this turned out. And I of course love the sound that it makes. I could play with this all day long. So shall we have a quick flip through of what is inside? I will move my tassel up so that it's not in the way. Let's open this bow here. Pocket we've seen. The first one here is an ephemera folder that I was inspired by Joey DeFee. And I will link all of my junk journal with me's that I used for this journal down below in the description box, so you can see how I've done everything, because I don't want to go through it in detail now because we've done all of these together, every single page. So this flips out like this. Then this here was a prompt from the summer prompt list. This here, I'm not sure if that was a prompt. That might have just been a random collage, mixed media collage. This I left as it is, as well as this, because they're beautiful vintage book pages. And this is the other side of that folder from Joey DeFee, and this is some beautiful vintage ephemera that was sent to me. Now, I'm not probably going to remember what all of these are, if they were prompts or not. I actually don't remember, but we have a cute tag here that was sent to me in Happy Mail. Then this as well, and I added this charm, and I have a whole video for that as well, how I made this. This again was Happy Mail. Made a pocket here. Then there's a tuck spot here with this file, what do you call this? File folder card, whatever, and some journaling here. This was a page where I showed my autumn themed snippet rolls using digitals from the Digital Collage Club. Then this again was a Happy Mail pocket, and I added this tag that I think I made. Slides in there. Then this is the pop-up page with the butterflies. This is a collage using some items from the Your Creative Studio vintage subscription box. This is an envelope we made out of music sheets, and inside I have some more Happy Mail treasures that I wanted to keep in here. So this has decoupage napkin on top and some lace, and clipped on here with a paper clip. This is just a very mildly altered book page with some calligraphy here. This was again Your Creative Studio page using all of their supplies for the bee kit that they had. This was, I remember this was a prompt from our prompt list using some items from a Snow White wrapping paper, and lots of journaling here. This was a pocket where I followed a tutorial from Tina from Shabby Dabby Doodah, and also using her beautiful digital kit Botanic Ballroom. So lots of pockets and just beautiful digitals. Oh, this is a snug fit here, and then it flips up. No, it flips up like this. And there's more pockets, and there's some writing here and more collaging, and there's the other half of the pocket is on the other side. This is a tuck spot we made, and a foldable tag that has some secret journaling inside. Then here we have the huge butterfly that we did together, just with a decoupage napkin on top, and writing about some butterfly facts that we researched. Here we have a belly band with a floral, or with a paper flower glued to a snippet roll. Of course, there's also a video for this. This was a Happy Mail paper bag and some Happy Mail items that I was sent. And that tucks into our belly band. So this is the other half of Tina's beautiful folder. Another tuck spot here with some beautiful ephemera. Another tuck spot here. Some more journaling in there. This was so much fun. Then we did another corner tuck spot here with another one of those paper flowers with another Happy Mail item that I made into a journaling card for some journaling on the back. Here is a heart that we made with a message to the world. That was a prompt, so it opens up like this with a secret message. Then this is a tuxedo pocket where we added some photos of an autumn walk. This was again a prompt. So if we take away this paper clip, we can actually open it, and it actually has magnets inside to keep it closed. So we have a whole bunch of photos from the walk. Oh, there's another one hidden here. Then there's another one here with a little corner tuck spot, some more photos in various pockets in the middle here. So if you want to know how to make these tuxedo pockets, please see the playlist. Some more beautiful photos from my walk, from like a kind of a farmer's market. There's some chestnuts here from the market. This was a prompt, this was a challenge where we exchanged 5 items that we had to include in a journal spread. So these items I received from Maud, and I made this paper bag, put in 2 of my tags that I made in my 50 tag challenge. Lots of fun. And there's another item in this pocket here, which is made out of beautiful wallpaper that Maud sent me. So Maud made this, and then she wrote me a little note on the back. And this closes by just putting this in the wax seal, and that just clips onto the page. Here is another journaling prompt made it. Actually, I'm not sure this was a prompt. Maybe. So I made a tag with this beautiful girl, and just out of a book page, and we made this envelope saying happy place, and I added something very special. This was something one of my viewers had sent me using my digitals right after I opened my shop. So this was very, very special for me, and I added what she wrote to me in her email. So that is very special to me, and I wanted to have a special place for it, so I put it in this envelope in my journal. This, I believe, might have been another prompt. So we made a top-loading pocket out of a print from a journal, from a snippet roll. We added some of beautiful copper gilding wax to this journaling card. We collaged it, and there is some journaling space on the back, which I haven't written anything on, so I should do that. Here is a side tuck spot with a beautiful trim. Then this was a junk mail envelope that I've coffee dyed. Yeah, this was a prompt about hedgehogs. We learned a lot about hedgehogs here. And inside, whoops, what do we have inside? Inside we have another booklet with some journaling in there, which peeks through our little window there. Here we have another tuck spot. This is made out of real junk mail, out of a chocolate box with a decoupage napkin and some lace. Journaling space on the back. I also still need to journal on that, and this was also a part of the chocolate box. This is a pocket following another tutorial. So it has 3 envelopes. And I really love how this turned out. Again, there is a tutorial for that, and using some cutouts from my autumn themed snippet roll. Has a pocket in the back as well with another huge tag with some decoupage napkin and some journaling on the back. And finally, this was our page with a digital of some embroidery that I recently did, and I added a little tag on the top, some journaling in the back on some coffee dyed paper, and put it in this tuck spot. And this is again some decoupaged napkin. So there you have it. A very plump and happy journal. I'm very, very happy with it. Just going to tie the bow again. And I think I will also post a video with just a silent flip through as well. So there we go. That's our finished journal for a part of summer and part of autumn. So let's see how this journey continues. I'm very excited. Thank you so much if you're still here. And I really appreciate you hanging out with me. Love you guys. Mwah, mwah.